Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Classy Nerd Talk. Tonight, we are doing a special podcast that we'll be doing until the extended of this series has ended. Tonight on Nerd Watch is our podcast for Game of Thrones. I'm your host, Suburculator, and we have a very special guest that's going to be a part of these podcasts. Mahler, what's up, bud?
Hey, man. Just, hey.
What an intro. What an intro.
I know, right?
Perfect.
I'm just Mahler 67.
Yeah.
Games of me, you know me. I love Game of Thrones.
So tonight was the season premiere of season 7.
Mm-hmm.
Big, exciting. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Since last May when the last season ended. Actually started. We were excited for the next season, but it got postponed because of the weather that they were doing when they were filming, and it got pushed back until July. So tonight at 9, we got to see the season premiere. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Unless you were me and had to work until 11, so I had to wait until 11:30, and then me and my roommate watched it, avoiding all spoilers at the time. No Facebook, no Twitter. Glad I did wait. It was definitely a strong season start. Yeah.
Okay, so before we get into this, I'm just going to say this straight up. Spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't watched the episode. So if you're watching this, you should not watch this episode yet. So if you haven't watched Game of Thrones season 7, season premiere, don't watch this.
Yeah, it should definitely go without saying. If you have not seen the new episode yet, you probably won't enjoy this. If you don't care for spoilers, then hey, congratulations. You could watch this, I guess, and enjoy it. But it's definitely one of those episodes where you have to watch it to see all the craziness that happens, even in the first 10 minutes. It's worth just waiting for. I can contest to that so much. Yeah.
All right, so let's start off first. Let's start off with houses first. So let's talk about House Stark. I would have to say we need to go with Arya first because of the opening of this episode. So the opening of this episode is actually showing the Lord of Frey, which when I first watched it, I was watching it with a guy that we know, and we were watching it, and I was like, wait, isn't this guy dead from season 6? And he's like, yeah, I think this must be a flashback before that or something. And I never even hinted at it. And then he was like, dude, that's Arya. That's gotta be Arya. So what's going on is he starts talking about how he hasn't killed a Stark, and they thought they killed all the Starks, but there's one Stark left, and all this crazy stuff that's happening. And then the best part about that whole scene is where the soldiers that are all around him that have murdered in the Red Wedding end up starts puking up blood, and that's when it clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's poisoning everyone from House Stark. I mean, from House Frey. So House Stark, House Frey. So
Red Wedding Part 2.
After that, she pulls off the mask, and because she's part of the faceless people now, and she's like, oh well, guess what? I killed everyone except for the 2 girls, and when you witness here today, make sure you tell people that, the North repaid its debt or whatever. I forget what she said, but I was just so hyped.
She said, winter has come for the Freys, and the North remembers. And
the North remembers.
So for my perception on this, the second this episode began, I instantly went, that's Arya. I instantly knew it, because the one thing I loved, and I watched the after show because we have HBO now, and so I watched the HBO now. The after show with Dan and Dave, they even mentioned it, and I noticed it during the episode that the Frey, he had the guy who plays Walter Frey, I forget his name, he's in Harry Potter and everything, he's very famous actor. He was doing subtle things that made you feel like this isn't Walter Frey. And it was amazing acting on his part. And the thing that I instantly knew it wasn't Walter Frey and everything, there were so many things that clicked. The first thing was how he acted and how all the Freys were there. I'm just like, she's gonna kill them all. And whenever she like nodded to all the people with the wine glasses, I'm like, she's poisoning them all. I'm like, this is so good, so good. And then the one thing I really loved was how the
masterpiece. Encore.
I love how his wife was going to take a drink and he stops her. Not only does he stop her, he stops her in the way that Walter Frey probably would.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that drew any eyes to her, like to him there. But whenever everyone started coughing and they started like dying all over the place, super satisfying. But I will say it was weird to see Arya and like Frey's get up as she was walking out. It's just
she looked like she was on like a metal cover of like a band. Yeah. It was just like her walking.
Blood everywhere.
It was pretty cool though. Really exciting.
It was definitely a good way to start the season off. I was more happy with that scene just for the fact that I know like at the end of last season when she killed Walter Frey, I had a sense of yay, revenge. But then there was also a side of me that's like, that was just the guy who orchestrated it. This was straight on revenge, like 100%. You killed most of my family. I gathered together all the Freys that mean something, and I murdered them all into the household. And I was actually getting a little goosebumps when she started going off about like, you killed the mother who had 5 children. You killed a daughter, a pregnant woman with the baby inside. And he's like saying this stuff. You could see the look on the lesser Frey's face, like, oh crap, what the heck? And then they just slowly start like messing with their necks. It was very well done. Very well done. Should we just jump to the next scene with Arya?
Yeah, actually, let's just see if you can see this little Easter egg that was part of Game of Thrones tonight that I brought up a lot lately about there was a certain person that's famous that's going to be part of Game of Thrones, and I wanted to see if you spotted him.
Are you talking about Ed Sheeran?
Yeah. Did you see Ed Sheeran tonight?
Oh yeah. That's why I said like jump to the next part, because that was another good part. Because they were House Lannister men sent up to look over like the Riverlands because of what happened to the Freys. And that was Ed Sheeran. Not only was it Ed Sheeran, he was singing Hands of Gold, which is the song that the one bard made for Tyrion with him and Shay. So it's like the hands for hands of gold are always cold, but the woman's hands are warm, which means that song got out. Originally, Tyrion had the bard killed, so that song went out, so no one knew about him and Shay. So that song got out. That's a really cool, funny thing. And I really liked that scene.
Yeah. Because
you saw like Arya was looking around, looking at all the swords, like she's like, I can kill these people. There's no fear here. If they make for it, I'll kill them all. But then I really like what they did with this scene is it showed like Arya, like she just had the intent, like these are Lannister people, I'm going to have to kill them. But then as she started talking with them, it's like, these are people with like families and houses. Like the one guy misses his dad, who's like a fisherman. And then the other dude has a wife and she just gave birth. And she's like, oh, a boy or a girl? And she's like, well, soldiers don't get ravens for them. And I think that kind of hit Arya in more of a center place that maybe she'll start seeing people as what they are, people who have house, who have families and such, and they're just not bodies. And I don't think I could see this happening later in this season. She didn't think about all the Freys she killed. She's like, these are all the people who killed him. But she just killed all these other people. She just did what Walter Frey and all of them did to her family.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how much that will actually affect Arya in the future, but it was nice to see that type of psychologically mindset introduced in this episode for sure. What'd you think of Ed Sheeran and Arya's little engagement with the Lannister soldiers?
Okay, so what I like about this episode right here, the best part about Ed Sheeran being part of this, okay, so a lot of people were upset about Ed Sheeran being part of this, and I really, really didn't care too much about him being part of this. So it didn't really affect me. A lot of people were like upset that he was going to be in the show, and I was like, I don't know why you're so upset. He's probably a character that's going to die. So when I saw him on screen, I was like, oh well, they put him in episode 1. So, but I actually like that interaction that they have because it shows that Arya Stark. Because like this whole time you've seen Arya for the last a couple seasons now, she's just like been wanting to seek revenge the whole time. And it's been like this line of just revenge the whole time. And when she talked to those two, and the part where he's like, do you want a boy or a girl? And he goes, well, I want a girl because the boys have to fight someone else's war, and the daughters take care of their pop when they're older. So I really liked that, and I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. But it also showed the part of Arya that she still missed, where she was a kid, and she had a loving family and stuff. But I'm really psyched about it. I really, really think Arya, like, it was an explosive event for Arya. It made Arya just such a cool character. And I think this is going to be, a really, really good story for Arya.
Yeah. I definitely think we're going to see a more humane side of Arya appear. Still holding out for the Nymeria reunion with her. I'd love to see that together. They haven't really mentioned the pack wolves or anything like that for a while. So here's hoping. I'm sure they'll probably double back at some point.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next Stark. Let's move on to Bran Stark. So the last season that we saw Bran, we got to see like one of the most devastating scenes of Game of Thrones because, one of the best characters that we loved so much to the show, actually you figured out why he's named Hodor. Which was a really, really impactful part of this show. And I really like how the emotional took on you, because after that episode, I remember just looking over to my buddy that was watching me, and I was like, here's 2 things I love about that. And here's one thing I hate about that. I was like, I love that it showed Hodor and how he became Hodor. I love the passion, and he knew the whole time that he was going to die that way, and he knew he was going to die that way. And it really, he's a true friend. He was a true friend of Bran. Like, that's what I loved about him. And I like the character himself and the actor. The problem I have with it is, and it is a corny problem, but what I think it is everyone was using that phrase. Oh my God, everyone was using that phrase. Every time I got in an elevator, hold the door. Every time I went in the restaurant, hold the door. And then, one of our people that we used to play, I don't play with him anymore, but you do, is on Smite. He was yelling, hold the door, hold the door. But he never even watched one episode of Game of Thrones, never watched that episode. But back to that. So right now, Bran is with the lady. I forget her name. You probably remember.
Mira Reed. Jojen's
Mira Reed. And she shows up at the wall with Bran Stark.
Bran and her show up. You don't even get to see them like walk up or anything. It's just them at the wall. Gate opens. Dollar Edge, or Lord Commander Edge. I know the Dollar Edge is like his nickname, but Dollar's Edge comes out with the men, and they're like, "I'm Mira Reed. This is Bran Stark." Knight King Tommy's like, how can we be sure of that? And then Bran, I feel like Bran has definitely gone into his skin of being the new Three-Eyed Raven, because just how he like clicked and like turned the Dollar's Edge, and he's just like, you were at the the one battle with the whites that John was part of, and he's like, you saw him there, and you saw this and that, and then just the look on Dollar Edge's face is like, crap, man. Okay, get in here. And that split second where it shows him like looking out into the vast lands of the North, just it really shows just the impending doom that's coming. I'm excited to see more Bran, because I feel like he's finally growing up.
He's finally becoming a real character on Game of Thrones.
I always thought he was a character. I really liked Bran from the beginning. He was just a child, you know. He had the perception on what he wanted. He wanted to be a knight, and his whole life got taken from him in a matter of a second when he fell. And I think now he sees it as, this is what I am now. I'm no longer a knight. I am more. I'm still hoping for a love connection between him and Mira Reed. Just because, you know, after being together for so long, who knows? But then you kind of have to think to yourself, like, can that ever happen? Because, you know, he paralyzed.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you get what I'm saying, you know? Like, he can work into someone.
There, but you never know.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see Bran and Mira back at Winterfell, because we're going to see it, because we've seen those leaked pictures and those the trailers and everything with Bran in a wheelchair next to a werewood, and we know that there's no werewood in Castle Black, since Jon had to go past the wall in order to do his vows. So he's definitely at Winterfell, which means he's probably going to have a reunion with Jon or Sansa, because we know that Jon's going to parley with some people to try to gain more forces to defend the North. But we'll talk about Jon later, but that's why I'm excited for Bran.
I'm really excited for Bran too, because the thing is when I first started watching Game of Thrones, the least character I never liked, because I didn't like his story, was Bran. He was really boring to me, because, you know, it was just pretty much dialogue. There was a couple like action parts, whatever. But I remember hating that character. And then when last season started, I really started liking him as a character. It's like, oh, well, his story's picking up. It's becoming something now. So he's a bigger role of it. And I know the first thing we see is, like, you know, his eyes glazing over. And before that, we get to see like all those White Walkers, you know, then like we saw the two giants, and Dakota looked straight at me and was like, that's gonna suck. I was like, yeah, two giants, like they're White Walker giants now.
There wasn't just two, there was three. And that was something that I mentioned to my friend last season during the Battle of the Bastards, is when 1-1 died, I was just like, he needed to die, because he was the only giant that we knew of, and he was too much of a, like, I guess you say like a handicap for Jon. Like, he was too good. He had to have died there. I thought like, oh no, what this could mean, because my big reason why he had to die was during the Battle of the Night, when Jon has all of his forces, you know, we're fighting the Night's King, whenever that will happen, or if it's Jon. If 1-1 would have died then, he would have been brought back as a giant, right? I failed to realize or remember that there was other giants that have died before then. And so when I saw that, I'm just like, well, crap. GG, guys. Let's all hell to Old Town and stay with the Maesters.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Salvation.
So moving past Bran, let's move on to Sansa.
Should we just throw Sansa and Jon together? Because I feel like they're really connected.
I think we can throw Jon, Sansa, Brienne.
Yeah. Brienne,
a whole bunch of people together.
Littlefinger,
Lady Mormont.
Tormund, my man, Tormund. Lady Mormont, she's, bless her heart.
She did so good. That part where she stood up and she's like, she said, she like looked right at that guy and was like, you don't have to tell me what king I should defend. I'm old enough here. I was just like, whoa, dude, like back off, dude. She's got like, this bear's got a bite.
The thing I liked about her the most was when Jon was like telling, it's just like all boys from 10 to 60 will be taught in drill. And the old guy's like, yes, all the boys. And he's like, not just the boys. He's like, you intend for me to put a spear in my granddaughter's hand? And then little Lady Mormont gets up and she just kind of tells him like, yo, women can fight too. And the thing I liked about this is, you know me, Austin, my two of my favorite characters is Tormund Giantsbane and Brienne of Tarth. And when John said "and women's too," she had this smug look on her face, like she's just like, "My man."
Yeah, it's just like finally someone gets stuff done here.
Yeah, and that's a big game changer right there.
Yeah, and the thing is like John really doesn't have too much going on in this episode. It was just more of him talking about how he's going to line everyone together. The Sansa was more the thing that I was looking at, because Sansa and Littlefinger are having his little thing going on, because she's like,
his little finger.
And Brienne Tarth was like, came out and was like, hey, like, is there something wrong with this? And he's like, well, if it wasn't for his, his army, we would have been dead. Ramsay would have still won. So, that's pretty much that covers Starks at the Winterfell. And then the two other people he made pledge allegiance to him. I forget who it was. It was two little kids, like they were.
It was the Karstarks and the Umbers, the two people who betrayed him and joined Ramsay Bolton. It was their grandchildren, their children.
Which I really like that Jon Snow did that, because he's starting to realize, like, it's not about like honor in the family right now, because the White Walkers are coming and he knows it.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing is you see Jon looking at the way that we look at nowadays. Like, it's like, just, I'm not going to punish the children for the sins of the father. And Sansa is very much old. Like, she has the mindset of the Game of Thrones of the olden days. Just like, oh, these people were not for you. Kill them, remove their family from the stain. And Jon's much more of like, we need to work together. And Sansa really like knowed that, because she told him, she's like, you're good at this. You're good at ruling. The thing is that Sansa is trying to play the Game of Thrones. She's just like, you have to have only your closest allies with you. Get rid of everyone else, that deal. Jon's not trying to play the Game of Thrones. He's trying to like live and keep everyone alive. And I think that's going to be the reason why people rally behind Jon, is because they're going to see that he's not just going out and destroying whatnot. He is actually building people up. I think that's going to be shown later in the series. I think people are going to draw to Jon because of that. Azor Ahai, here we come.
Okay, so moving on past Jon and Arya and Sansa, we have in Bronn, we don't have any other Starks. So let's move on to the next family, Lannisters.
Oh, real quick before we do that, my favorite 2 cents of the Sansa Stark and all that thing was the single like 5-second frame when Tormund Jownbane is walking up to Brienne after she and Padre's fighting, and he like turns and looks at her. He looks at Padre. He's like, "You're a lucky man," and the look on her face, like, just freaking leave me alone.
I thought it was great.
Too. I love those two.
See, when it happened, I looked over at Dakota and I was like, it's happening. He's going to fight her, and then they're going to like clash each other, and then they're going to like stare at each other's eyes and be like, you're muscular. And she'll be like, oh, I'm so muscly for you. And then they like get married or something. I was waiting for the whole thing, but it didn't work out that way. So, hopefully we kind of see that whole, we see that relationship kind of bloom, because it would be a cool relationship to see.
I like the two characters. I don't know if I want them to be together. I love Tormund. I love Brienne. Aside me still wants Brienne to like end up with like Jaime, just not for the fact that like Jaime or her deserve each other, but I just have like that feeling that I'm like, Jaime just deserves anyone 100 times better than Cersei.
Yeah, I agreed 100%.
But Tormund's giant bane, I feel for him. He's like, he's not my persona, that's for sure. Like, I'm a fat guy, and he's like this freaking monster from the north. But his like how he deals with her is just so amazing that you can't help but root for the man.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get back on track. Lannisters. I want to talk about. Okay, so what we know so far about the Lannisters that were leading up to this season was, one, Cersei got out of her whole trial because she pretty much blew up everyone.
You can't have a trial if there's no one to try.
She killed poor Marjorie, and we didn't get to see her. Also, too, is Jaime just returned, and all of Cersei's kids are now dead. Joffrey's dead, Tommen's dead, and Priscilla is dead. Tommen ends up killing himself by playing Assassin's Creed.
Just wanted to join Fallout Boy.
He was doing the leap of the eagle. That's why they call it King's Landing.
I made that joke the first day after watching that. I even made like a little picture where it said King's Landing, and I had little dying lines go from the Red Keep down, and it's like the King's trajectory. So
that's a good one. I should steal that. That's a good one. Okay, so after this, we kind of realize that like Cersei has taken the throne, the Iron Throne, and Jaime just came back, and he's very upset. So let's start out with Cersei for here. The first thing we see of Cersei actually is like she's in like the garden place where she's at usually. Not the garden, it's like more of an open like area. And
they're painting it's the place where the mountain killed those
the sparrow guys. You know, he crushed his head in. They're painting like a painting of Westeros.
Yeah, it's the whole island, like the whole place of Westeros. It's like a world map type deal.
Yeah, and I think I believe that's symbolism, but we'll talk about that later. Symbolic. So Jaime confronts her and talks to her about like he knows that now that people are against her and that their kids are dead. And I think Jaime in this scene, what I got from that scene, I believe that Jaime's starting to realize that Cersei is really, really crazy and mental. And she's like mad with power. And I just really want to see her die, but it ain't going to happen for a while. But that's what we see of Cersei. But also, part of Cersei is she's on the Iron Throne. She finds out that the Greyjoys, the Iron Islands, right? Am I right? Their uncle decided to come and offer his ships to her because Theon and his sister decided to offer his ships to Daenerys. So he's like, oh, I'll do this. Shows up, talks about like murdering their father and getting part of it. And the whole time I was like, Cersei's going to say yes to him. And, his speculation was like, the only way I'll give you my ships is if I marry the most prettiest girl, queen of all time. And he was meaning her. And she really didn't like that answer. She did, but she didn't. She was like, yeah, you're unreliable.
He played the best swashbuckler guy in a while. So obviously, like in that situation, Theon, not Theon, Aaron, I can't ever say his name right. The uncle, that whole engagement was great because you had Jaime who was fighting Euron tooth and nail. Like he was just against him the whole time.
Yeah.
And everything that he said, Cersei liked. You could tell because she just started grinning at certain points. And she was one part about to break a smile. And I don't know if you caught this one, but whenever she's just like, you're unreliable, he's like, of course, you would never trust someone who's unreliable like me unless I brought a gift. Yeah. And he's like, so I'll go and get that gift for you, and I won't be back until I have that said gift. And when he was saying, like, I wanted to marry the prettiest girl in the land and everything, that is just like shoving his face up Cersei's butt right there.
Yeah, it was completely just...
This is the thing that I actually went, oh, really loud with me and my friend watching, is when he's like, and here I am, and I have two hands. And when he said that, I went, oh.
That's what I said too. I was like, oh my God.
The look on Jaime's face, he literally looked like he just got kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
At that single comment. It was priceless. It was beautifully done. The acting was on point. So what do you think gift is he going to bring for Cersei? Because there's a couple possibilities.
The only thing, okay, so Dakota, I'm pretty sure, told me he thought it was going to be Tyrion.
Yeah, that's
or I
definitely
thought I
number
was
one
saying.
that people think.
I
What
think
else?
it's probably Tyrion, or it's probably. Hmm, hmm, I,
Mm.
hmm. It could be more Wildfire.
So these are my personal thoughts on what he could bring. One, Tyrion is definitely number one because nothing would make Cersei more happy than to have her brother who killed her father and, to her knowledge, killed her son. And I still believe that Tyrion's going to get his butt slapped in the he's going to take the hit. Whenever Jamie freed him, Jamie asked him, like, did you actually kill Tyrion? Tyrion's like, yes, I did. He said it out of anger. But he did. And that's going to bite him in the butt later. I know for sure. So I think it's either Tyrion. The second one is he's going to destroy Daenerys's ships. We know that there's a ship scene and there's like explosions and such because of the special scenes that you saw in the trailers. If he destroys Daenerys' ships, I think that alone would be considered a gift. And I think the third one, I think a little less likely, but it would be just as epic if he did, is to bring Cersei a dragon. And because here's the thing, I'm not sure if they did in the show. I'm kind of fuzzy on the whole the Water King selection thing that happened where they were all like saying like I should be the new king and this not. In the books, Euron blew a horn that killed, like after he was done blowing the horn, the guy who blew the horn died. And that's supposed to be a dragon horn that bends dragons to your will. And I think he mentions that he had it in the TV show. So if he gets one of those dragons, that alone would be a double bane to Daenerys for taking one of her dragons, and two, that gives Cersei the same battlefield as Daenerys. Like she would have a dragon too. I don't know how much I feel about that last one, but it's a possibility. It's a gift. Who knows? It could also be like he just shows up with flowers the next episode and it's just like, pretty please.
Pretty please with a cherry on top, Miss Pussy.
What do you think about the new Queen's Guard armor?
Are you talking about like Daenerys' armor?
No, the Queen's Guard. Cersei's men, like the mountain.
Like the red ones, like the red armor.
No, so when Aeron Greyjoy went to get up there, the mountain was there, and he stepped for it. The armor that the mountain's wearing,
black armor.
Yeah, that's
the black armor that the. Okay.
It's originally the white.
That looks pretty cool.
Guard, which was white.
It looks pretty dark.
I did not like the helmets. I still don't like the helmets. I never liked the helmets, but I felt like they took it a little farther. And I just I just can't get behind that. That does not look like the type of armor you'd wear into battle. That is the type of armor that like you smelt down and you make something useful out of it for once. I was just interested in what you thought about that. I was kind of picky on that myself.
It was all right. I don't see like it being. I wasn't really too picky about it. Like it was all right looking. I can deal with it, but we'll see. That you never know. It might look cooler after you watch it a couple times, but let's see. We'll wait.
I think they made it that way just to hide Zombie Mountain's face. Nothing more.
Probably. It's probably easier, so then like they don't have to put too much makeup on the mountain, the guy that plays the mountain. Okay, so let's keep moving on with this. We already kind of covered Jamie and Cersei. The other Lannister we have is Tyrion. But we'll talk about that with the Targaryens.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood showed up tonight.
Brotherhoods without banners, you say?
The brothers. Okay, so the first thing that we remember from the Brotherhoods last time was last season we found out that the hound was still alive and he didn't starve out there and die. And so then he meets up with the Mayans of Brothers and the Brotherhood, and they kind of go together. But this episode, we kind of see them. They show up. The first thing we see them is they're like riding on a horse together, and then one of the Brotherhood goes, "Hey, you want some of this rum?" And he's like, "No, that's too sweet for that crap." He's like, "I hate that stuff." The hound target. I forget how you pronounce his first name.
Sagor Clegane.
Sagor Clegane.
Sandor Clegane.
Sandor Clegane, the hound.
Yeah.
So the hound.
The hound. It's good.
When they turned the camera to the house that they showed, I was the first one to yell out and be like, "Oh, what?" I was like, "Oh no, this is terrible."
It was a great callback. And
it was
a very good point A to point Z situation. Because when I first saw the house, I didn't connect the dots. I didn't think about it at all until they went into the house. And whenever I saw the dead bodies, that's when it started connecting with me. I'm like, wait, he knows this. Oh, these are the... Oh.
Well,
that was my exact thought.
The thing that connected me was when they saw the house, I was like, "Oh my gosh, is that the house with the daughter and the father that he was with Arya and beat them up and said like he wouldn't make it through winter?" The thing is Dakota's like, "I don't know." And then when I saw them walk through the door, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it is. And then Dakota made this statement and I laughed, and you're gonna laugh at this. He's like, "What if the daughter still lived?" And I was like, "It's winter and she would have built a fire." And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure she'd die." Yeah. I was like, if there wasn't a fire. And it was emotional a little bit for me, because the thing was we got to see the Mountain how he was, and now he's kind of like this person a little bit different than what he used to be.
Oh, he's so different. It's like the moon and the sun. They're the same thing. Like just like the moon reflects the light from the sun, the new Sandor Clegane we got now is the same thing as he is, but like whenever he robbed the family at that point, he's just like, they're not gonna make it through winter, who cares? And now we see him like, oh crap, he is actually his own person. I love the conversation he has with Beric Dondarrion and the Fire Priest, and then you really see how much he's grown or has his character developed from when the name was on the tip of my tongue. The Red Priest woke up, saw him burying them, which I always gotta say, with the Hound, there's always this mixture of like seriousness and odd off comedy. Because as like they're burying it together and they're all that stuff, he goes to say the prayer, and he's just like the warrior watches over us, and the mother. Freak it! I don't remember.
I forgot.
You don't deserve to die. You deserve better.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
I think the most emotional part for me was when they were talking about when he looked over and he saw the bodies, and he goes, they starved to death. And the father couldn't handle them starving to death anymore, so he ended both of their lives. Yeah. And then he ends up like, you kind of explain that he stabbed his daughter and then stabbed himself. And then he's bleeding out because the knife had blood on it, like really, really dried up blood.
Yeah, it was rusted, yeah.
So I thought that was very cool, very emotional though. And then when he was burying them, it kind of makes a symbolic thing with the Hound where he's like a new person now, and he's kind of like feeling like remorse for people instead of murdering them or telling them how terrible they are. But I think the best part of that episode with the Hound was the part where he told him to look in the fire. Because
I was really afraid when he said that. Because I was expecting.
You thought he was going to slip and fall back in?
No. I wasn't afraid of like it being like dumb or like he slipped fall into it. I was afraid that they were going to have him like look in the fire and then the fire slowly started like showing pictures. I'm like, please don't do that. That's so stupid. And they did. I'm super glad they did. I still felt like it was really rushed whenever he started looking in the flames. Like, I see a wall. I see these dead things. I see this. But it was needed. It was definitely needed. And you could tell, like, see the look on his face when he slowly started realizing, like, crap, this is much more. Yeah. But that's I did love, complete side note, I love the single phrase that Sandor Clegane said to Derek Don, whatever. One-eyed man, I can't say his name to save my life. He's like, it's divine justice. He's like, there's no such thing as divine justice. If there was, you'd be dead and the girl would be alive. And when he said that, I'm just like, he's growing up, but at the same thing, he's realizing like things aren't fair and they're unfair. He knows the reason why it's unfair, but it's just it's so heavy, you know, like man. I want good things to happen to people, but
it's really hard.
Game of Thrones will never have good things happen to people. Let's be honest.
Well, see, that's like the whole time that like Arya, like at the beginning when Arya was talking to those guys, it was very awkward for me because I was like, "Are those Lannisters? Those are Lannisters." Oh, and like the whole time me and Dakota was like, I was just waiting for the whole time where like Arya was just gonna get up and slit their throats or something. I was waiting for it. They were going to poison her or like try to like, you know, do something to her. But it kind of didn't turn out that way. But okay, so moving on past that, let's go to the last house. So the last house, come on, you know what it is.
Oh, you're saying me? Like
yeah.
Oh,
of course.
All right. So the last house is of course Dorne. The best storyline in the whole series. Akeed. That's the dumb, like everyone hates the Dorne storyline. No, it's Targaryens. We finally get to see the homecoming of the Queen of Storms.
One of my predictions was right about them going to Dragonstone.
Well, like, can you really call that a prediction? That's like saying like tomorrow the sun will rise.
Come on, give it to me. Come on.
Yeah, I'm not. Now, here's the thing. At the end of this, I want us to do predictions for next week.
No, okay. So what we saw at Daenerys last season was Daenerys Targaryen was heading to look like it was King's Landing with a bunch of ships that Theon and gave them, and pretty much they're going to take over King's Landing. That's where she's coming to get the Iron Throne. But actually, she shows up to Dragonstone. But before we do, we're missing out on one person right now. And before we talk about the Targaryens, I'd like to talk about this person because I know we're not going to hit this person unless I bring this person up. And he was a huge part of the show tonight because he's the man, the one, the legend, Sam. So Sam, I feel so bad for him right now because he's having to clean out people's urine, poop, and he doesn't even get to read the good books he wants to read. And he has to like weigh organs and hearts and stuff for the Macers. Yeah.
I will say, did you catch the person that he had a brief interaction with? It was very obvious.
I caught him from a mile away, man, because like when he stuck his hand out there, I was like, like,
now, are you just saying that because you can't remember his name, or what?
Drath. Jorith or Drath. It's the guy that likes to that told Daenerys that he loved her, and he has like the rock.
Joramon. Yeah.
Joramon. That's what it is. I always forget his
agree. Name. The montage that they showed for Sam, you definitely got the feeling like he's been doing it for a long time because they kept like jumping and going through it. Very well done. And there was actually a point when he started like gagging. I actually inadvertently started gagging too. I was like, ugh. Especially because there was a point where I stopped realizing if it was the crap or if it was the food that was being poured out.
Yeah.
I was just like, man, that was well done. I didn't feel like being here.
Well, all they were eating was soup, so I expect their poop to be that way. Because like most of their poop is like all like liquid, but they were putting in like those little troughs, like he was doing that. But I like to say this about Sam: he's kind of getting the whole glance of we know where the dragon glass is now. It's in Dragonstone. Right? I'm right.
Put the two together. It's crazy. You know?
Oh, Dragonstone Dragonglass.
Yeah.
And Dakota couldn't stop calling it Dragonstone the whole time after they said, oh, it's in Dragonstone. So he's like, oh, so they're going to mill all that Dragonstone at Dragonstone. And I was like, what? He's like, I was like, oh, you mean the Dragonglass? He's like, yeah. Dragonstone. I was like, damn it, Dakota. So he stole some Macer's keys and he got in like the restricted area and started reading some of the stuff. So we're going to probably see things that kill White Walkers and like some of the myths and stuff like that.
I want to bring this up. Did you notice the reference in the book that Sam was looking at?
No.
Right before he turned to the map to Dragonstone, did you see what was on the page?
No.
It was a dagger that we know from season 1.
Oh, okay. So Dakota pointed that out. That's the dagger that someone gave someone to kill someone with.
It's the dagger that Joffrey gave to his underling to kill Bran Stark.
Yeah,
which then they believed. Yeah, see, Marco knew it was Littlefinger's dagger. You found out it's Littlefinger's dagger.
There you go, Marco.
And when I saw that, I instantly went like, why the heck is that in the book? And I think it's definitely going to have pretense later on. But I love the fact that it was there. And my brain started swirling. I'm like, there's something important with that dagger. That's a very old dagger. That's great. I'm super excited with where they go with it.
Yeah. We'll see where that goes to.
I'm excited to see what Sam can dig out of the cathedral. I want to call it the Cathedral of Learning because I'm from Pittsburgh, but the Citadel area.
But no, I like the little. He's still not getting better. He's got the whole hand of rock now. The first thing he asked was, "Is Daenerys here?" And Sam's like, "I don't know who that is." So we kind of tie Sam into that, and I think Sam and him are going to have a relationship now. We're going to see that probably in the couple other episodes that come up. So back to Daenerys. Okay, so Daenerys just landed on Dragonstone. This is where it's home. This is where Stannis was in the regular seasons. And ends up having sex with Melisandre on top of the game room thing. But I was talking to Dakota about this, and I was like, "Oh man, that's a crappy like attack area. Unless like you climb the mountain that the castle's on. Like the only way to the castle is like that small narrow thing that goes up." And I was like, "That would be terrible for attacking people. Like it would be so hard to attack that castle." But I really actually dig that castle because, like, when I told Dakota, I was like, "Wow, dude! Like, they're showing that castle in detail." And like, I was like, "What? Why is she wanting the Iron Throne? Because like that castle is way cooler than King's Landing will ever be." But then I realized, okay, there's a lot more people.
Well, I will say this is just a side note as the whole thing. The establishing shots done for this episode were amazing. Like when it was coming down on Winterfell before you enter Winterfell, you finally got to see Winterfell from the top down. That was beautiful. Same with Dragonstone. You saw the whole castle. Prior to this, you only saw like certain parts of it. And we finally got to see the throne room, which Stannis never liked going into. At least in the show, he didn't really like to. I know like there was a couple times in the book where he was in it. And I think what I really liked was how silent Daenerys' homecoming was. And like I watched the aftermath, and even Dan and Dave, as they were talking about, they even pointed out how it's like we didn't want them to talk a lot. We wanted it to have like a seldomness to it. They wanted her to experience it, and I was like, beautiful. This is exactly why I wanted it. I couldn't shake the feeling of expecting someone to be there. Like someone was like, "You shouldn't be here," or something dumb like that. But didn't happen. It was beautiful. It was great. And just the whole, like, everyone's quiet, and then Daenerys is just like, "Shall we get started?" And I'm just like, "Dang right, we do. Let's kill everyone. Take back the 7 kingdoms."
And that's where the episode ends, exactly where she's like, "Let's get started." That's exactly where it ends. So some of the key points we just want to hit tonight is Josiah. So what was your most your favorite thing of this episode?
Favorite thing in this episode. I'm not going to go with the Arya part, even though that was definitely the best way to start.
It's so hard to not want to like the Arya part.
It was like all the rage I had built up since like season 2 and 3 just boiled down to that. I was very happy with it. But I'm going to go with the more seldom part with Sandor Clegane. I really just enjoyed him in general. Everything he did, all the interactions he had with the Brotherhood with banners, I just enjoyed. I'm excited to see what they do because it sounds like they're going to go to Eastwatch because that's what he saw in the Flames. And if that's true, we're going to see them fight some whites and probably some White Walkers. And I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of that whole engagement, they meet up with John or Derek Donner, but whatever. One-eyed man, I can't say his name ever. If he ends up dying again and he doesn't get revived, but Sandor gets revived, I wouldn't be surprised about that. But I'm just really excited for that. I enjoyed it all. And then, of course, my little nitpick of Tormund and Brienne, hearts in the air, love flying. What about you?
Okay, so I was a little upset with this episode because my main character, my favorite character, had no speaking lines in this.
Well, how else do you think they're going to save money on the seasons now? They're just like, we can have all these famous actors. If we don't have them speak, it cuts the cost in half. Money saving.
No, I was upset because like Davos didn't say anything at all, and Davos is one of my favorite characters of Game of Thrones. I really like him.
Yeah,
he's such a great character. But I was still excited. I will have to say, what I really did like, we're both gonna say it. We're not gonna say it's the whole poisoning of the Frey army and stuff with Arya, because it's kind of just the main thing that it was a good start.
Yeah.
What I did like, the biggest thing I liked about this was probably the Hound. I liked the whole storyline with the Hound. I was so intrigued with the Hound and the Brotherhood. I'm really psyched now because like watching the Hound's face when he's like, "Well, those creatures are coming," blah 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 blah, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like he's legit, And then one of the Brotherhoods is like, "This is why we're here now. This is why we're here. Now you can see why we're here." So it's going to lead up to some really, really cool stuff, and I'm so super excited about that.
Now, question for you: what's your least? What was your biggest disappointment? You mentioned like Davos didn't speak, but what was something that you were really hoping to see in this first episode? Like he says, it's kind of the first episode's always the kind of opening to the new season. So what were you hoping to see?
I wanted to see Jaime Lannister take his sword out and slit Cersei's wrist. I'm just kidding.
I like how you said wrist, and then you go across your neck.
Yeah, and I go like slit her throat. Yeah. Because I hate her so much throughout the seasons that I thought that would have pushed him over the edge, but he was like cool with it. He was like, "Okay, you killed our sons," and I'm like, really? Like, you let that just happen? And that's the thing, though, is like, and what we talk about, I've talked about with people, when he's with Cersei Lannister, he's an evil person. But then when he's away from Cersei Lannister, he's a really nice person. Like what he did with Blackfish, what he did with Brienne Toth, like saving her and then telling Blackfish, "Hey, we're just going to take this castle. We should stop fighting. This is how it should be." So I don't know. I thought he was just going to kill her. Like I thought that was going to happen, but it will probably happen later. The least thing that was legit that they did show in the show that I didn't like was probably Bran. I just didn't think there was enough of it. Like, it just was like, here's a snippet of Bran. This is how I feel with it. Here's a little bit of Bran. You know, all that stuff you were wanting with Hodor, and you want all that story, you're going to have to wait. But
I don't agree. I don't agree with that with Bran. I'm excited for Bran. I'm excited to see how he'll go. I feel he's going to start flying here soon. Like, you're going to see him kind of take wing in perspective and true become the Three-Eye Raven. The thing I was disappointed in, this is just me hoping. I really wanted to see Gendry. I just really wanted to see Gendry again. I wanted to see him with either the Brotherhood without Banner. I wanted to see him be like on the, like, whenever it started showing like Arya walking in the forest, I was like, please be Gendry. Please be Gendry. And then I saw Ed Sheeran, and I'm just like, you're not kidding.
It's Ed Sheeran.
yeah.
I was waiting for Ed Sheeran to like pop up with his acoustic guitar and be like, I'm in love with the shape of you. And I was like, oh my gosh, Arya better kill this guy quick. But you know, it wasn't a big part for Ed Sheeran. It was a great part, I think. You know, they had the Coldplay drummer on. This was another good one. But I just want Gendry, man. Because I still have the dream of Gendry coming back, joining like Jon or whatever, wielding a hammer, like a war hammer, and it's like symbolic of Robert. But that's what I was hoping for. And I'm still going to hold on to that for like the upcoming episodes. Yeah. Because I feel like how they left Gendry off was like, okay, throw him in the back part. We can all forget about him. We can have him randomly appear later on and just be like, oh, you have all this random stuff with you. Great. Gendry, you've grown so much. Now you can wield this hammer. Go, let's fight some dead things. Okay, so let's go over what is the thing you are anticipating the most out of this season.
Okay. How about this? How about we do expectations for next episode? What do you think is going to happen next episode, and we get one each?
Well. See, the thing I'm waiting on is I want to see the Hound fight the Mountain. It's kind of leading up to that, and I really want to see that. That'd be cool. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen. Also, too, is I think we're going to be seeing a lot of the White Walkers next episode. I think they're going to be leading most of the pack, and I think that's going to be leading towards like the Wall. And also too is I think we probably won't see too much of Arya. Next episode will be probably mostly Daenerys and White Walkers. That's what I think.
Okay. I don't agree on the White Walkers. I think they're going to do with the White Walkers what they did a little bit pretty much last season, where the most we'll see of the White Walkers is maybe every so often we'll see them getting closer and closer. And at the end of the season is maybe the whole last episode or maybe a couple episodes before the last, it's going to be very White Walker focused, and it's going to be them like tearing down the wall or them getting past the wall. I think that's what we're going to do. Now, there was like the whole thing with Sandor and the Brotherhood without banners. I don't think we're going to get next episode. They're at Eastwatch by the sea and White Walkers appear. I think we're going to see them slowly marching their way up there. I think what we can expect to see next episode is Aaron, oh crap, I can't say his. Man, I'm so bad at these names, you know.
Just the Hound. You can just say the Hound.
No, I'm not saying the Hound. I'm saying the Salt King, the uncle.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to see his gift. I think we're going to see what's going to happen. Either he's going to capture someone, he's going to kill someone. I'm still kind of betting on the whole thing of him either capturing someone or destroying Daenerys' fleet as a gift. That's my big number one. I think we're going to start seeing some disturbance in the force in the north. Pretty much between Sansa, Jon, and Littlefinger. I think Littlefinger is going to try getting Sansa to like get mad at Jon. But the thing is, I think Sansa has officially overpassed Littlefinger in the Game of Thrones. Unless Littlefinger is not playing all of his cards correctly. I think Sansa sees that she can use Littlefinger more than he can use her. So that's what I think will happen.
one other thing I probably will touch base on is we'll probably see a lot of John going to different houses and talking about, like being part of like an alliance now. So we'll probably see that. Okay, so let's move a little bit forward because we're crunched on time tonight.
So a question was in the chat. It's like, do you think the White Walker is the one who built the wall in the first place? So from the books, I think it's the same in the show. It was that Bran Stark years prior was the one who built the wall with the helps of the giants. I mean, I don't think we know that the Night's King, or at least it doesn't fit that way, that the Night's King is the same Night King. So I don't think it's the same person who built the wall. I still think that it's probably the Night's King, but I don't think it's the same person who built the wall, unless I'm misunderstanding the question.
Well, I don't really think the White Walkers built the wall. I actually think it was some magical force that did it.
Well, in the books,
what I think, why I say magical force, I'm thinking something that makes ice. And when I mean ice is something that I just have this theory. It's a wild theory. A lot of people do have this theory, but I think it was probably the ice dragon that made that wall.
Yeah.
See, I just have that theory. I really believe there's an ice dragon, and I really
it's mentioned because there's actually a book in the world, and even you can find it on Audible. Like Grimart made his own called the Ice Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it takes place of it, but when it comes to the actual lore of the wall, it's Brandon Stark built it with the help of magic from the Child of the Forest, controlling giants to build it for him.
Mm.
So that's where it comes from. Of course, that is just a fairy tale, but there's also that theory that one brand is all the brands. Like the Bran Stark that we have goes into the mind of different Brandon Starks in different times and gets them to do things to make sure that the world happens. Like he goes into that first Bran Stark and makes him control the white, makes him build the wall and stuff like that. It's a theory. I don't know if it'll ever do.
Well, we talked about that before when the last season, when we saw him doing all the flashbacks and the Mad King was like, kill them all, kill them all, kill them all. Mm-hmm. I kind of was like, well, what if Bran Stark, what if the first three-eyed raven like made the Mad King mad for a reason? But I brought that up, but I don't know if that's legit. But I believe it's the Ice Dragon. So, but let's move a little bit forward because it's getting that time, and I get up to bed because right now I have to be at work at 11 and it's already 2:42. All right, so I'm just gonna do a quick rundown of stuff. We are Classy Nerd Talk. I am Sir Berkulator, and I just want to thank Mahler for being part of this tonight. We will be doing the next episode next Sunday, probably around this time.
Technically Monday.
Yeah, technically Monday. We'll be around every Sunday until Game of Thrones ends. Also, too, is we do have a Facebook page. You are watching probably on YouTube, so if you hit that subscribe button, that would be great. We do a giveaway every month. This month's giveaway, we're doing 1,400 gems for Smite, if you are a Smite fan. Also, too, is we're doing a DC versus Marvel gift pack, which right now we're at a dead even lock of seeing who's going to win. So, the DC pack includes Spider-Man Funko. Well, the Marvel one is Spider-Man Funko, a couple comics, and a copy of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite pre-order. And then the DC bundle, if you win the DC bundle, it will have a Batman Funko, some comics, a copy of Injustice 2, and there's some other stuff we add to the bundle with the giveaway every month. But we also have more content on our channel. If you decide that you want more content or anything like that, just hit that subscribe button. Also hit the bell so you get notifications. And some of my soundproofing just fell off the wall. It scared the crap out of me. Also, too, is we do have a SoundCloud, a whole bunch of other things. If you're looking for more likes and stuff, or you want to be like updated on all the giveaways that we do, or more of these podcasts that we do, just get on Classy Nerd Talk on Facebook. We have a group, and then we have a page. So I just want to thank Mahler for being part of this podcast tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait until next episode. So we're gonna see. All right, so for all you nerds out there, remember, we do watch the nerds. This is Nerd Watch. Have a classy night.